Hello everyone, my name is Kathy Groh. I'm the Transition Coordinator at the Warrior Run School District. Today we're going to be talking about what does transition look like in the IEP. So we're going to go through an annotated version of the IEP so that you can see what are the important sections when it comes to transition. So first, we're going to talk about the 6-step process for addressing secondary transition. So if you look here, step 1 says use assessments to identify the student's post-secondary desired goals or vision. So post-secondary means after the student graduates from high school. Step 2, describe the student's present levels of academic achievement and functional performance, embedding assessment data. Step 3, establish transition team partnerships. Step 4, design a transition plan that includes courses of studies and services and activities. Step 5, determine measurable annual goals that address skill deficits and lead to post-secondary goals. And step 6, monitor progress and adjust instruction based on this data. We're at first going to talk about student present levels of academic achievement. In the next video, we'll be talking about assessments that we use in transition to determine the desired goal or vision for a student for post-secondary. Okay, this is an annotated version of an IEP. So in the beginning, it talks about present levels, and it goes over present levels academic, present levels functional, and then present levels, which is transition services that you see here. This is required for kids who are 14 or older during the IEP. If they are 13, but they're going to be 14 during the year of the IEP, then transition section must be completed. So the student's IEP must contain appropriate measurable post-secondary goals based upon age-appropriate transition assessments related to training, education, employment, and where appropriate, independent living skills. Post-secondary goals are a vital part of the IEP. The transition section of the IEP must contain courses of study needed to assist the student in reaching his or her post-secondary goals. Courses of study needs to be more specific than just college prep, business, or general education. It needs to be more in depth. Also, that you must include any agencies that the student is working with, whether it's OBR, ELKS program, Center for Independent Living. You should include them in this section of the IEP. The IEP team must consider post-school goals for the student in the area of post-secondary education and training, employment, and independent living when appropriate, and to make sure that we focus on the interest of the student, whether or not they want to go to tech school, a 4-year college, a 2-year college, or go straight to employment. The IEP team should at least document one measurable annual goal that has been developed for the post-secondary goal area. And this measurable annual goal would be further developed in the next section, which is the transition grid of the IEP. The students' needs will be met through general education curriculum, and then a measurable annual goal would not be to be written in them. This means that if the general education curriculum already contains the supports and services necessary to assist the student in reaching the post-secondary goals, then the team would not indicate that a measurable annual goal is necessary, and there is not a need for specially designed instruction outside the general education curriculum. It also must include services and activities to assist the student in meeting his or her post-secondary goals, and it must be listed in the grid, which I'm going to show you in just a moment. One of the other things that you should also include in this part of the transition grid is whether or not a student has his or her driver's license, whether or not that is a goal that will be reached, and any other transition activity services that happens within the school day. You also need to answer these questions. Does the student have a transition plan as part of the IEP, yes or no? Does the student have an outcome goal of competitive integrative employment? Yes or no? Did the student participate in a competitive integrated paid work experience? Yes or no? And did the student participate in individual job coaching services funded by the school in a paid work experiences? Yes or no? A job coaching service is just something that provides support to students who are in work internships. So the grid looks like this. If a student is interested in doing post-secondary education, then you would write the goal in this section and then include a service and activity that supports this goal. It's the same with an employment goal. Even if the student has a post-secondary desire to go to a training school, for example, you would still have an employment goal, whatever they plan on being employed as once they graduate. And again, a service and activity would be included under this transition grid. The next spot is for independent living goals. A student has to take a transition assessment to determine whether or not a student is in need of independent living goals. If the student is not in need, then you can state that in this area. If a student is in need of that, then you would write what the goal would be, and then a service and activity would need to be included in this. Don't forget that if a student is going to, like an example for us, we send students to Lycoming County Technical Consortium, they would have to include that on this section of the IEP. Okay, on this section of the IEP is where you would put a goal related to post-secondary education. If you are filling out the transition grid, then you must include a post-secondary goal that relates to transition in this area. And within the present levels of transition, you must include the progress towards those goals. Okay, I did develop this IEP transition checklist for the staff that I work with. So remember, on present levels of transition, you should include information on transition assessments, which is listed here, and we'll be talking about that in another video coming up. The other thing that must be included is other transition activities. And some examples I give are transition conferences, clinics. We have a Milton Career Fair, job shadows. So we also have something that lists through guidance department that tells what activities are occurring during what years of education. So 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. So you're gonna write these activities in the IEP and make sure that your child is able to have opportunities throughout their education to focus on transition. They could be job shadows, they could be work internships, going to a technical school if that is something that the school district does participate in. Also, agency involvement must be documented. Like I said, whether or not a student has a county caseworker, whether there is OVR applications and you sign up for OVR, then this is some of the stuff that must be included in the IEP. Progress monitoring on the transition goals, as we've discussed. So you must keep track of the goals and how they are progressing, and should continue to progress throughout the years of an IEP from the age of 14 until they graduate, whether or not that's 18 or if they stay until they're 21. So again, my name is Kathy Grow. I'm the transition coordinator at the Warrior Run School District. You can contact me at cgrow@wrsd.org. If you have any questions based on this topic, you can send me an email. If not, the next topic we'll be talking about is transition assessments.